you had to choose the best superhero for flexing purposes, I'm pretty sure that the Man of Steel would instantly come to mind.
Slowpoke.
DC's Superman has been known for showing off his powers, not just for the sake of saving the world, but also for the occasional opportunity just to be a little bit sassy.
You're scared of me because you can't control me. You don't. And you never will.
Well, could you blame him? He's like the Elon Musk of overpowered aliens. So today, I'm giving you my biggest Superman flexes in the movies. Everyone has their weaknesses, even Superman. However, unlike Millie Bobby Brown with Eggo Waffles, the Man of Steel can't exactly nom on what makes him drop to his knees. Kryptonite has always been a thorn in Kal-El's armor, and the Dark Knight is just way too smart not to exploit that advantage. As expected, the dude powers himself up with tons of kryptonite because, well, he's rich, isn't he? But it ain't smooth sailing for Bruce Wayne because Clark Kent can recover his powers in a jiffy. The scene in question is when Batman starts punching Superman in his wannabe Iron Man suit, and while he does damage to land a few hits, a knight in shining blue spandex regains his strength and just stands there while Batman tries his best to put the workout montage to use. Next thing you know, he's giving the opponent the death stare and whacks him away like he's a tiny bat. Maybe Batfleck should have taken some tips from the Tony Stark versus Hulk fight in Age of Ultron.
There's no time.
I understand.
You really shouldn't smoke, Miss Lane.
Would you like a glass of wine?
No thanks. I never drink when I fly.
We all love a sassy gentleman who can use his wits to impress the ladies. The 70s were a wild time for love, and if you're searching for an example, then look no further than the OG Superman film from 1978. The scene starts off as a harmless chat between Superman and Lois Lane, but then the Man of Steel turns on his flirt mode and tells his darling that she shouldn't really be smoking. She seems confident in her lungs, but then her super daddy confirms it with a little X-ray peeping. But my favorite line is when Lois asks Kal-El for a drink, and he casually replies by saying,
No thanks. I never drink when I fly.
Damn, that was such a flex. I felt like giving the man a medal right there. Yeah, I know some woke feminist on Twitter's probably already criticised this scene, but we live in the real world, don't we? So I'm going to say this was an epic exchange.
What color underwear am I wearing?
Pink.
Huh?
Pink.
Do you like pink?
I like pink very much, Lois.
Take one step. You will see the inside of her head.
It's kind of hard to believe that there are people out there who don't know how dangerous Superman really is. Take this kidnapper dude, for example. He's openly threatening to shoot Lois in front of her freaking boyfriend. On top of that, he's even challenging the Man of Steel to take a step further. Bruh, have you ever even seen superhero movies? I guess not, right? As you'd expect, Superman shares a brief glance with his girlfriend and then she lets go of the kidnapper's arm because she knows what's about to happen. All it takes is a millisecond for Clark to drag the goon one wall after the other without laying even a whisker on Lois. I guess one step for Superman is literally a giant leap for mankind. I'm sorry, Neil Armstrong, I didn't mean to steal your line there.
The fact is, maybe he's not some sort of devil or Jesus character. Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear people crying for one.
Superman Returns will always be criminally underrated, and nobody can tell me otherwise. Brandon Routh could have been an awesome icon for the millennials of today, but I guess we should be thankful that we at least got to see him flex over here. My power demonstration videos are always packed with scenes from this movie, but I also managed to find a little gem where Superman takes his ex-girlfriend up in the air to have a brief chat regarding, well, you know, their breakup, of course. I get that Lois is a big girl and she needs to move on, but just look at Clark. He's more dreamy than Grey's Anatomy's McSteamy. Alright, my poetry might be a bit cringeworthy, but Superman's response to Lois's article sure wasn't. He mentions that she wrote about the world not needing a savior, but also casually reminds her that he's got super hearing powers and his ears are openly telling him that the people are crying out for his help. It's a humble flex that ought to teach the salty reporter not to badmouth her ex.
They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son.
Or he has to die. No one stays good in this world.
The concept of good versus evil is so saturated that it's hard not to get tired of it. However, Zack Snyder is already aware of this, as can be seen in this moment from Batman vs Superman. Lex Luthor is being, well, a weird version of himself, so Superman must figure out a way to save his mom and defeat the tech villain before he becomes the next Jeff Bezos. Of course, even the Man of Steel can't be in two places at the same time, so he decides to ask Batman for help. Lois understandably doubts whether this is a good idea, but then Clark reminds her,
No one stays good in this world.
It is a departure from standard superhero tropes, as we got to see a mature and practical side of a man who's usually just limited to a blind faith in justice. And of course, he always knew he could use the Martha card as backup.
My mother needs me. Wait, I'll make you a promise. Martha won't die tonight.
Slowpoke?
Look, I know I've given the Joss Whedon version of Justice League a lot of flack, but you gotta understand, it's only because he tried to make it a wannabe Avengers film. If there was one decent change he made though, it was the inclusion of humor.
Well, I knew you didn't bring me back because you like me.
I don't. Not.
And one of the best examples of that is when Superman decides to save some of the residents after giving Steppenwolf a whooping that he'll never forget. Now, Barry Allen's already on his way to do the same thing, but Clark quickly catches up to him and pulls off some sass by calling him a slowpoke. Damn, that's gotta burn harder than Ezra Miller's charge sheet. Of course, the Flash doesn't like to be compared to a Pokemon, so he quickly saves a family. But then the Man of Steel shows him his place when he flexes by carrying an entire building of innocent people. Yeah, I know how this scene changes in the Snyder Cut, but you gotta admit, it is still funny.
But if I win, you're off the team.
The world needs you. Doesn't need you. Tell me. Do you bleed?
Remember the iconic
Do you bleed?
line from Batman vs Superman? Yeah, it got a very funny twist in 2017's Justice League after Kal-El came back to life. We all know how epic that fight scene was, but more importantly, I still can't get over how Superman casually lifts Bruce and asks him the very same question. The only difference is that this time, he's the one in control. Batman fans can sit and cry all they want, but at the end of the day, he's just a normal human with no superpowers whatsoever. All it takes is one blow and the dude's already like, yeah, something's definitely bleeding here.
Yeah. Oh, something's definitely bleeding.
This could have been a perfect scene if only they didn't mess up that abomination of a patch with Henry Cavill's mustache. Maybe it really was Mission Impossible for the animators.
Clark.
Let's put our cards on the table here, General.
You're scared of me because you can't control me. You don't. And you never will.
I don't know why these people never learn. When you're dealing with a guy like Superman, do you really think a bunch of handcuffs are gonna restrain him? I mean, that would make as much sense as, say, I don't know, cancelling a $100 million Batgirl movie, right? Anyway, Superman decides to play nice and allows himself to be cuffed, after which he has a little chat with his girlfriend and confirms what the S on his suit stands for.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
But their romance is cut short by the army guys. So Clark casually snaps his cuffs open and openly challenges them by saying,
You're scared of me because you can't control me.
he rubs some salt on their wounds by adding that his surrender is literally a favor so that he can stop Zod from terrorizing the planet. Forget Queen Elizabeth, these dudes are the ones in need of mourning.
On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S.
The bat is dead. Bury it. Consider this mercy.
Batfleck just doesn't know when to stop, does he? The Dark Knight tries his best to fight Superman with his apparently indestructible Batmobile, but Kal-El quickly reminds him who's boss and knocks him down without even doing anything. Like, the dude's just standing there, and the Batmobile gets wrecked with just a simple touch. Now, that should be enough to scare any normal human being, but Bruce Wayne over here is kind of like Reed Richards in the Multiverse of Madness, so he tries to act tough in front of his overpowered opponent, just like all those fake rappers trying to flex about being gangsters. Clark Kent only wants to stop the Cap, so he tells Bruce,
Next time they shine your light in the sky, don't go to it. The bat is dead. Bury it.
and patronizes him even further by saying,
Consider this mercy.
if you ever want to know how to establish dominance, then this is a scene for you. Ah, yes. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Steppenwolf was quite a handful for the Justice League now, wasn't he? Think about it. He was able to take on Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Cyborg, and Batman, even though he doesn't really count. Anyway, it seems as if the Horned villain is going to take the cake and activate the anti-life equation, but then Superman drops by to save his buddies and casually takes a hit to the shoulder without even flinching. On top of that, he says that he's not impressed and uses his frost breath to destroy Steppenwolf's axe. I'm sure that we all know how he totally owns Darkseid's assistant after that, and it sure was a treat to watch. I just hope Warner Brothers find their footing again, because we definitely need more Superman content.
The time is now.
And there you go. Those are my top 10 Superman flexes in the movies. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and head over to the description for access to Patreon and socials. I'll see you in the next one.